Eyelids so languorous, she dreams a holiday of nailing jelly to a tree as murder sweeps the bay. I've got this old book. It's a Marks and Spencer's compendium of horror stories. It's full of pulp horror stories, really. Most of the people you haven't heard of, but it's got occasional, I don't know, Daphne du Maurier's story or Edgar Allan Poe, and then it's got these other people you've never heard of, and they're all quite contrived stories. And but there's just something really cosy about them. Yeah. I mean, you know it's not good literature, but it would actually ruin it if it was. I think with a song I like to take somebody somewhere, so they get a strong sense of being taken on a journey, or even if it is in a very short period of time. Down in the dell, we try to get together. You and I, an old cracked bell in the head. Down in the dell, the smell of rotten flesh lingers. I slip a ring to the fattest of fingers. You see, Freud would paint so well with £100 bottle of wine in the dell. I'm quite naive as a musician anyways, so I go on the principle of keep it simple. And then I guess it's trying to make a virtue of it, really. I mean, I like listening to complicated music, but I'm not so good at playing. I'm trying to get the feeling of Muzaki, bored housewife feel, you know, that kind of feeling of it's almost like the music's, I sort of see it as like primary colours rather than subtle blends of colour. That's not to say I won't throw in unusual chords, but as a small girl, whenever she heard a sudden high-pitched whistle in her head, she believed she was receiving a calling to rescue someone in crisis. But wherever she looked, she found no one. And when it was gone, she felt guilty for whoever had asked to be rescued and who she had never got to in time. Just want to show you this picture. It's picked up in Amsterdam. It's really good. Look at that.
Oh, yes. Pictures, of course. Here's Marigold Winters. She ran a boarding house for gentlemen lodgers and lived to all intents and purposes a prosaic life. prosaic that is, if your definition of the term extends to poisoning and taxidermy. Next to here's John Grail, who loved the ladies, but is so hated when they try to leave. It was the matches. They burned them without reason. There in the ashtray like bones. Little burnt teeth. I really think I could be excused. After all, it's understandable.
This is an interesting article about artists that are kind of hard to get hold of. Jam deck. It's Leonard Cohen here. It seems to work for them. It seems they just like their privacy, I guess. There's something I want to show you under here. It's a book, and it's called The Book of Men. And when I was about 7, I used to fold a piece of paper over in half, and with my fingers just make the sort of half shape of a person. So you open it out and there's a person like this, and I'd colour them in and give them unusual names. And I had a whole box of them, a whole shoe box of them, and I was sort of loath to stick a few of them in this book, but I remember thinking, you know, I might lose some of these, so I'll stick them in anyway, and in fact that's the only thing that remains. So I still have that. Great cover. Just love that bizarre illustration. Book of Men. I mean, as a kid I was pretty sociable. I had plenty of friends and things, but I think I liked the idea of, even back then, of having this kind of secret world that you sort of create, which Songs does, doesn't it? And I'd make up names that I hadn't heard before, or clothes that I'd never seen. So this was Ready, probably self-explanatory there. There's Henry. Looks quite camp. Nothing wrong with that. Hugh, that face I remember just suggested a Hugh to me. Couldn't be anything else. I remember being a bit disappointed that this glue had leaked through. I thought it would dry through, but I don't think it's going to do. Maybe he's allergic to cucumber or something. Some soldiers here. I got very into these downturned mouths, which a psychologist might have something to say about that. A bit fattest as a child.
They don't look very happy, a lot of these characters.
No.
Fatty, for instance.
And yet I was quite a happy kid. Here we go, another made-up name, Detty. A few tough characters here. A few black eyes. Big Weddy. And I developed these funny kind of eyes. Well, he reappears down here. A small Weddy. There's a baby Weddy. I got very obsessed about shoes at one point, and I filled an entire book up with shoes. It was about this thick, and had a carbon piece of paper in it, full of shoes. And then I moved on to whales. Maybe there was something autistic going on. I don't know if you can grow out of autism. I particularly like these heels at the back. I got very obsessed with how heels wore down. In fact, there was a kid at my school, we used to swap shoes, just one shoe, and I'd walk around wearing one of my shoes and one of his, and it was intriguing the way you could feel like the contours of somebody's foot on the sole of their shoe against your foot. And it got to obsessive proportions. I mean, this is just, as you can see, a couple of pages, but even when it was a full book, there was a huge box of them, and I used to just make them all every day and add to them. A huge array of characters.